What's going on, you guys? Paul here with Paul's Performance, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have a very special one. We've mentioned it a few times. I don't know if you guys can see, we got Samuel's car back in here, and what we're gonna be doing is a manual transmission swap. Yeah, exciting. He's had this car for a little while now. The only downside to it is it's had the infamous automatic transmission. This is 2001 Jetta with the ALH TDI in it. It's had the automatic holding it back. Well, a few months ago, it started to act up. We had the starter started sticking, and you come to find out that the teeth on the torque converter have been damaged. With the amount of miles on the car, we assessed the situation, as a lot of you probably have done with your automatics, and found out that it's going to be well worth going to the manual. I had a manual car and you could not hand me an automatic car for free. We opted to go with a manual swap. We ended up finding a donor car, which we have outside, that needed some engine work but had the manual transmission so that we could have all the parts. We stripped them all off of it and we got them here in the shop. I'm gonna go over them with you guys here in just a minute. For those of you guys who won't be buying a full car and you may just be buying the parts like in a kit, we'll go over that in just a minute. Let's get over to the table and I'll show you guys kind of what we have for the start of the manual swap series. So we're over here at my workbench area, and this is where I have all of the parts we're gonna need for this manual swap. I'm gonna kind of go over each one. That way you guys who are looking to figure out what parts you need, you'll know what all you need to be looking for, or if you're buying a kit, you'll know what all should come in that kit and just kind of be better prepared. And one other thing, for this particular series, we're probably gonna have to break it down into 3 different videos. Obviously this is video number 1. I'm not sure if it's gonna be 3, it may be less, but it's probably gonna be 3. We'll see how long it goes, but this first series is gonna be obviously parts breakdown, and then we're gonna start tearing down on Samuel's car. We didn't get any video of us taking parts off of the donor car because a lot of you won't be doing that, and most of you may just be buying the parts. But if you do get a car, just take these parts off when you get it. So let's start here with the main component. This right here is your 5-speed Volkswagen manual transmission. I have it sitting here on the stand. Exactly what it sounds like. It's a 5-speed manual transmission. Super reliable, and you don't really see any issues out of them, and they're very, very fun to drive. There's the transmission. Now we're gonna move over to the table. So start with your axles. The axles between the manual and the automatic transmission are different. So you're gonna wanna get your axles from the manual car. As you can see, we're gonna need the driver's side axle because it's pretty hurt. So we're gonna buy a new one of those. We have our lower motor mount, and then as you look right here, this is the inside. We have our brake pedal. The manual brake pedal is a lot smaller than the one in your automatic car, which I'm sure some of you guys have already noticed that. The brake mechanism that this mounts to is all the same, so you just need to get this brake pedal lever. That way, once you add the clutch in, your brake pedal is not hitting. Or if you just wanna cut your pedal that's on your car, that's fine too. But if you have the pedal, you might as well put it in because it'll look a lot more professional. Then on the other side, obviously, you're gonna need your clutch pedal. So here's the full clutch pedal assembly on your automatic car. You'll see later on where this bolts up. The stuff should already be there, but you'll need this whole clutch pedal assembly, as well as you're gonna wanna get these pigtails that come to your clutch switches. There's 2 clutch switches that's gonna be on here. This one I believe is for the cruise control, and then you'll have another one that will be up here. I'll show you when we get to the electrical components, and that one will be for starting the vehicle, and it'll release once you push that down. So you're gonna wanna get both of those sensors and get the pigtails and get as much wiring as you can, because we are gonna have to do some wiring in this, but it shouldn't be too hard. Moving on, we'll go over here to the electrical side, and a lot of this you're not gonna need, so just listen to what I say, but I kind of ripped out a bunch of relays out of this manual car. A lot of you won't have all this stuff. You're gonna need a 53 relay for this swap, and if you have a car, go ahead and grab you one out because you're gonna need one. So if not, you can order one for this swap. This right here is your other clutch switch. It'll bolt in, like I said, when you're taking out the clutch pedal, or like I said, if you're not, you'll see, but this will bolt up on the top, and as you can see, I have my pigtail. I'm gonna set that right there. This is just more parts for mounting the clutch. This is a bracket. And then as far as more electrical stuff. We'll go over that, and when we're doing all the electrical, that'll probably be one of the last steps we do. You won't need this part because this is your starter plug-in that goes to your starter for when you turn the key. This is already on the car on the automatic. It's the exact same connector. I just cut it off of this other car just because. But on the manual car, you'll have this plug-in that goes to the manual transmission. You will need that, so get as much of this cut off. This right here will be for the reverse signal, I believe. We'll go over wiring at a later date. There should be some pigtails that you guys should get in your kit. If not, you're gonna have to get some. Let's move on. Next step, obviously, from your clutch pedal, you will have this hose that goes up to your brake master cylinder, and the master cylinder that's on your automatic car will have a nipple that is crimped off. You'll just cut it for the swap, but we'll get to that when we're putting that on. But as you can see, we have our full hydraulic line from our clutch. That's gonna go all the way down here to your slave cylinder that'll go on top of your transmission. So make sure you have that. Obviously, any hardware you need. Next thing we have is our full shifting assembly. As you can see, we have all the cabling, all of the mounting hardware. Well, we did have all the mounting hardware. Shifter, everything you got for shifting in the car, because obviously your automatic's gonna be gone. The other thing we have here is we have our starter. The manual has a different starter than the automatic trans, so you will need to have the starter from the manual. And I believe that's it for the stuff you'll need. There may be a few other odds and ends, but I think that's everything. This is our first manual swap in one of these cars, so like I said, we'll also be kind of learning together. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be that hard though. This is everything we got, and we also have the car out there just in case we need anything else. If we do run into something that I missed here, I'm gonna let you guys know, so don't worry. So we need to get into this under the hood of his car and start ripping this automatic transmission out. That way we can throw it away. Let's get under the hood. We already have the starter out from where we were diagnosing on his car originally, so the starter's already removed. I'm not gonna go over step by step, how to remove this transmission. There's probably other videos on how to do that. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna remove the automatic transmission and everything that it has on the transmission itself. We're gonna remove the shifting mechanism on the inside of the car, the prindle. We're gonna remove the brake pedal off of the inside. And then once we have all that stuff, no cutting of any wires, no wiring, just remove the transmission shifter, and we're gonna remove the brake pedal. And once we get to there and get all this stuff out, then we're gonna start the assembly process of doing the swap. And that's where we'll start back up, and we'll try to go step by step on putting this car back together with a manual. But as far as the removal process, just remove the automatic transmission. That if you don't know how, I'm sure there's videos out there on how to remove it. It'll be the same way as if you're removing it for some other service on the transmission. Don't damage anything, just remove the transmission, remove the drive axles, and all that jazz. One other thing that I may have missed on the parts thing, I wasn't really thinking about it, but is the clutch. You're gonna need, flywheel and your clutch assembly and all those parts, which should be on the transmission. It's not sitting on that one because we got a new flywheel, a new clutch, and we're also gonna put a new rear main seal in it. But you guys will see that once we start with putting it back together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start ripping this car apart, and I will see you back once we have everything off of it. Let's start ripping. Alright guys, so we got the car disassembled. We have our auto transmission sitting here on the bench. Comparison of what they look like I said, they're pretty similar in size and shape. You'll notice that you have your transmission cooler right here on the top that'll have coolant in it, so you have to drain your coolant out of your car. And then we'll also have to work with these lines, which I'll show you a little bit when we go outside and look at the car. For this one in particular, as you can see, we have this little shim plate that goes between the motor and the transmission off. We're gonna transfer everything from the manual car, this plate and everything, over to Samuel's car. All this stuff from the automatic we took off. I hadn't pulled off the plate from the manual yet, but I'm pretty sure that this is a different plate. As you can see, you have all types of little shims. If you look closely, I can show you why we took this off. I found a good example, but the teeth on this ring gear is absolutely just, in some spots, just massacred. And it was causing the starter to stick. And unfortunately, they weld this ring gear on, so it's not like most of your other vehicles where you can easily, you know, change out this ring gear. You have to buy a whole torque converter. And this transmission is just not worth putting a new torque converter in, and it's also not worth rebuilding. It's very expensive to get rebuilt, and the torque converter, like I said, it's just a transmission that's not worth fixing, in my opinion, for something like this. So that's why we're going back with the manual. So we're going to go under here, under the car, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. It looks like junk right now, but it'll be back together soon. Come over here. I'm sure some of your stuff may vary. Obviously, you guys are gonna need one of the bars that mount across the top. If you're working on these cars, you already know this. If you don't, Harbor Freight sells a crossbar hoist for these engines. When you take the transmission out, the engine loses its motor mount for this side. So you have to have a bar that's going to be holding up on the engine. Harbor Freight makes one. We'll try to leave a link for it in the description. That way, for those of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about, you can pull it up, but you're going to need one to remove this transmission. As you can see, we have our underbody pretty disassembled. You can remove this whole assembly if you want to. I did not want to because, I mean, I like doing things faster. I'm not going to remove it all. I just have it removed enough to tilt down. That way the transmission would come out, and I can put it back in. And as you can see on the motor, I have the motor stripped all the way down to the bare motor. And like I said, I'm gonna transfer everything from the manual over to this, including that shim plate that we talked about over there. One other thing that I noticed that is different from taking this transmission out is it looks like our power steering line that runs over here straight to the steering box all the way to the pump. I noticed that the one on this automatic goes over the transmission, and the one for the manual went under the transmission. So we're gonna have to disconnect this line from here and all the way around, and we're gonna swap that out on the manual. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's go outside and I'll show you that line. We're out here at our donor car, and first thing I was going to talk about was our power steering line. As you guys, I don't know if you can see it, power steering line's hanging down low. That's because it actually ran underneath the manual transmission, and the one in the automatic car was mounted up above the transmission, and it actually bolted right in to a mount right here at the transmission mount. So we're going to have to swap out that power steering line. The other thing, on the automatic transmission, you have a transmission cooler that's right here on the top that's ran off of coolant, and as you can see, your manual does not have that nipple that comes down right here and goes to it, and it also doesn't have the hose that comes down from the backside. One other thing I can note, this assembly right here is different between auto and manual. The manuals have these little glow plugs to help with heating up of the car when it first starts up. We're not going to transfer that over. We're going to leave the automatic one on there, which doesn't have this. We are going to take this coolant fitting right here off of this car, transfer it over to Samuel's car. That way we get rid of that nipple, because we won't be needing it going to a transmission cooler. Now the one on the back goes to a metal line, and that metal line travels from back behind here. I don't know if you can see it, back behind the engine. It goes underneath, and it looks like it goes across the front of the engine. I believe I'm just gonna buy a cap and put a cap on that line, because we won't be needing that either, because that's the other side of the cooler line, and I really don't want to have to take out that full metal assembly. We'll see. I'm going to look in it and see how hard it would be to get out, but I do have some caps that I used in my TDI swap, so I'm probably just going to cap it off, and that'll make this a lot easier fix. So far, like I said, those are the only new things I've noticed that we are going to need to work on when going back in. But we do have the car completely disassembled, and now we're going to start the assembly process, but we're going to start that in the next video. So let's get back inside and we'll finish this one off. All right guys, so that concludes our first video in our TDI Jetta manual swap series. In this video, I just wanted to make sure that we covered kind of a base parts list, which you guys are should be seeing in y'all's kits, or what you guys need to be starting to acquire or remove from your donor vehicle. I also, like I said, wanted to get into a little bit of the disassembly. I know we didn't go step by step, but like I said, the disassembly is pretty straightforward. Remove the automatic transmission and remove the automatic shifter, axles, the stuff that goes with the automatic transmission. If you do have any questions about that, leave a comment. I'll try to answer. There is videos on how to remove that stuff, so just go watch the video, how to remove the automatic transmission and get it out of there. This is a multi-video series. Don't worry, this is not it. We have other videos coming. We'll probably have a second and a third. The second video is where we're gonna start with the assembly of throwing the manual transmission back in, getting any of the mechanical parts that we need to swap out, power steering lines, mounts, axles, any of the mechanical stuff that we need to put back in this car to swap out. And then in the third video is probably gonna be where I'm gonna cover the wiring aspect, the programming, going into VAGCOM and changing the computer over to a manual trans, and then also tuning, because we have Malone tuning on here, so we're gonna have to get a retune for a manual car. Hopefully in the third video, we'll also be covering the test drive and finishing up. So please bear with us. We'll have a second video coming. They should be all at once. There will be more videos, so don't worry. Like I said, if you have any questions about this side, please comment. Like I said, please watch the second and third videos, and I'm sure you'll get the information you're looking for. That's all for today. Appreciate you guys watching. As always, like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.